Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the P-LotPodcast. John here, joined once again by the main man himself, Michael. How we doing, man?
We are we are
Your volume, you just got muted, pal.
oh,
Sorry.
that is strange, but okay. Now I think I know what's happening. Anyways, we are actually not doing well in the sports world at the current moment. The sports world is very humbling at times, and even in a time where it'll be all four teams in the city of Philadelphia likely making the playoffs for the first time in God knows how long, genuinely. I think you probably, off the top of my head, would have to go back to 2010, I think. That would make sense. Maybe 2011. Yeah, I think 2011 is probably or no, the Eagles didn't make it. So, you might have to go back even further. You might have to go back to, like, '08.
I
I'm
was
not
thinking,
sure.
'08 with like the Phillies winning the World Series, Eagles NFC title game.
The Sixers are the one that's
Flyers were in the
escaping me.
playoffs. That Sixer that could have been like an 8 seed Sixer team.
Yeah,
That's the thing.
The Sixers are escaping me because you go back to the last time the Flyers made the playoffs, that was in the bubble, and obviously the Phillies didn't make it. You
Yes,
go back
2008. All four teams made the postseason.
okay, and
Sixers were
2010, I'm not sure if the Sixers made the playoffs. That because if it was 2010, then obviously that would have also counted as the Eagles did make the playoffs that year. Um, and obviously the Phillies and Flyers did as well. But this is something that I guess I should have
I'm checking
looked
that
up
right now.
beforehand.
You good?
Regardless,
No, the Sixers did not make the playoffs, Michael. That's
okay, so I think we're looking at 2008 makes the most sense. Maybe '09 as well, but I think the Flyers ma regardless, doesn't really matter. The first time in over 15 years since all 4 teams have made the playoffs in the same year, and here we are right on the cusp of the winter/spring playoffs. And it's not fun. It's not fun at the current moment. The Flyers, they're fine. They had a rough loss against Detroit. We'll talk about it a little bit later. They'll probably like still make it. The odds are still very much in their favor. Um, if they miss it at this point, it would actually be like very, very gut wrenching, very, very heartbreaking. But we had pretty much every other team's relevant news at the current moment like sucks, is actually horrific. Um, and yeah, we'll talk about all that. But let's start with the Flyers, as they're ultimately the most positive at the current moment. So
wow.
the Flyers currently stand in third place in the Metropolitan Division, which is ultimately the only way they're going to get in. Some other
2 points up.
ways. Oh, they are 1
1 point up.
point up on the Islanders, 2 points up on the Blue Jackets, and 3 points up on a like long shot Capitals if things go like perfect for them. But the second wild card at this point has been kind of wiped out, and it will almost be confirmed. A huge game today, huge game today for both the Flyers and all the teams in the race. The Ottawa Senators take on the New York Islanders, and if the Senators win, their odds to make the playoffs go up to 98.9%, which obviously very close to 100. And both of those ways would be the wild card. And with the Bruins having over 90 plus percent odds to be the other wild card, that kind of takes care of the wild card situation. Um, and if they do end up beating the New York Islanders, the Islanders' playoff odds would drop all the way to 15% if they lose in regulation, and if they lose in overtime, it would be 36%. So, huge game for the Islanders because if they do beat the Senators, their playoff odds jump to 56%, which would be 53% obviously for the third in division situation, and that definitely puts the Flyers at risk and needing to get a lot of points in their remaining 6 points. They probably need five to feel comfortable. The Flyers can hit a point total that the other teams can't reach, obviously, because they have more points at this current moment. But a regulation loss to the Red Wings on Thursday was pretty unfortunate. Um, Very frustrating game. Obviously, it didn't feel like they were going to just win out the rest of the way, but that was one you definitely wish you could have gotten because you really could have created some further separation in a game in a day where you didn't get as much help as you'd been consistently getting. Other than that, though, they do play the Winnipeg Jets out in Winnipeg today, and the Jets are not very good. This is a game that the Flyers absolutely need 2 points in the worst way. They get their 2 points, it'll set them up ahead of Monday and Tuesday, where they play the Carolina Hurricanes and the Montreal Canadiens. Now, both those teams are playoff teams, and both those teams are good. However, the Hurricanes are pretty much locked in, not totally fully locked in for the 1 seed in the Eastern Conference, but they do have a 2 point advantage on Buffalo, and they also have a game in hand. So there is a chance that they could be resting some players that game, and that would obviously be huge for the Flyers. Montreal, they're going to still be playing for stuff because they want home ice in the first round over Tampa Bay, and they're currently 2 points up on them. So those two games are definitely not going to be easy. Of the remaining three games for all the teams in the playoff hunt for with the Flyers, the Islanders, the Blue Jackets, and even the Capitals, the Flyers definitely have the easiest set of three games. So it would really behoove them to really get the 2 points today. And then if you could find a way to get 3 points out of the final two games, they'll probably have done enough to make the playoffs at that point. I mean, it's no guarantee that they make it. It is definitely
You know
worth
what
they
scares me
can
about
control their own
today?
destiny, you know?
You know what kind of scares me about today, Michael? We've been
Mm.
tormented by a former Blackhawk who's now currently on the Detroit Red Wings. That would be one Mister Patrick Kane. Michael, do you know who plays on the Winnipeg Jets?
Would that be Jonathan Taves?
Yes, the corpse of Jonathan Taves.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the Jets aren't a good team. Just flat out, full
So
stop.
I know the
They
Jets
are
had a lot of
not good.
injuries to start the year. I have them pulled up. Like Scheifele, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing his
Oh,
name.
Mark Scheifele. Yeah, you're right.
Scheifele, he's going to go for his 100th point today. I mean, Kyle Connor's a dog. So is Gabe Velarde. Josh Morrissey is really good, and then like the rest of their team just falls off, man.
Yeah, they're definitely past where they kind of had a peak run the last handful of years, and just losing the playoffs. But they're not like a slouch. They're not a bottom feeder. They're just not very good. And you know, it would just be a shame if the Flyers lose today. Like we're kind of DEFCON 5 on making the playoffs for sure. Like today is a must
It
win
is a
more than.
must win, and Michael, when we last did the show and talked about the Flyers, I said this is going to be. Everyone's kind of poo pooing it. I know, like Rono hockey is like, oh, purgatory, yada yada yada. Which he's part. I think he is like.
There's truth to it, but at the same
There's truth,
time,
but I
we
feel
can
from
we can
a
talk about this in May. You know what I mean?
yes.
Like, yeah,
I was gonna say, Michael, this is going to be a really big test for this team, and you want to see who steps up and like who's going to like choke. Now, like if let's say like Bump, Michi, Z, and like let's say I'm going to throw geez, why am I? Oh, God, I always like blank on his name. Not Jamie, yeah, Jamie Drysdale. If they ball out and they play well the last stretch and then barely missed the playoffs, not because they sucked. They sucked because Sanheim, Konechny, Tippett,
sure,
they
sure.
all just like crap the bed and they just can't handle like any type of pressure whatsoever. Then for me personally, if you see what the Flyers have been doing, like especially Danny Briere the last several weeks, getting Martone on this team, Zavragan rumored to be signing his entry level contract, going to report to the Phantoms. Jack Berglund is now going to report to the Phantoms.
Yeah.
Dude, the Flyers, if they're bringing guys to the Phantoms, it means that they're close to putting them on the NHL roster within the next year or so, right?
Right.
That tells me like this is a litmus. This is like the big test.
Hmm.
So, like, if Travis Konechny, who like I don't think we're either big Travis Konechny fans. I know it sounds. I think
Yeah, I mean, like,
I know we're
listen,
in the minority on that.
it's a realistic view on him for what he is, and it's like he's a nice player, but he can't be your best player. You know what I
He's like
mean?
the Bobby Abreu, sort of like the Bobby Abreu of the Phillies, where he's been here for like a long time, and people wonder like, why is he still here? Like, why didn't we ever trade him when we were like really bad? You know?
Sure, sure. It
So
just it's yeah. Today especially after you kind of get your crap handed to you on Thursday by playing an extremely sloppy game, you don't get good goaltending, and you don't take advantage. Like special teams was a disaster. The Flyers went what 1 for 6 on the power play, and they allowed a shorthanded goal and also allowed 3 power play goals. Like I don't know, you're just not going to win very many games at all like that. Absolutely not. And you can say what you want. The officiating's been a little suspect, but it's like your special teams just kind of needs to be better. And it's honestly it's so hard to kind of wrap my head around how they're even in this position to begin with because obviously they have to be a great 5-on-5 team. They have the worst power play in the league by like a decent margin, and they also have the 20th ranked penalty kill. Like it's not a good penalty kill either. That's a bottom,
yeah,
third
it's
unit.
weird. It's like if an NFL team like led the if they were like last in the NFL in scoring points off turnovers, and they led the league in turnovers.
Yeah, it's bizarre. They have opportunities and they just like the penalty kill used to be a strength in recent years, and like now it's a weakness, and that's
It
frustrating
was
because
under
obviously
Torts because Torts emphasized
the
that.
power play has been a disaster, obviously for like 6 years now. So
Would it be unfair to blame this all on Tockett? Because I know that's I trust me, like I
it's the
do.
cop out. Like it's
It's
because yeah, he does deserve blame for
he
sure. Because
deserves blame, but if you're trying to like,
I think he deserves blame for other
I
things.
think yes, not like winning or losing games is not where you should be blaming him. It's like player development slash playing young guys being forced to do
Playing
so.
guys in the right position. I mean, the biggest thing with him is that it took till post-Olympic break to fully commit to putting Zegras at center, fully commit to putting Michkov at right wing, and it's like, those 2 very simple moves that very
He's
easily
also a
could have been
dummy
done.
because he's too honest. Like
Yeah, those things could have been done in, like, November, and who knows where they would have been at by now, but the fact is that they waited until February to do it, and that's why they have the 2nd best record in the NHL since
do
the
you think
Olympic
Danny
break. It's like,
Briere knew
oh.
these moves would have resulted in losing, which may have been the objective? But then when they kept winning too many damn games in spite of not playing their players in proper positions, they were like, "F it, let's just do it because
I
we."
don't think Danny was playing 4D chess is what I'm gonna say. Not that I think
I don't
he's
think
an
so
idiot.
either.
I just think it was like I don't know. I think it maybe got to a point where he was like, "Listen, we should just try it," because they weren't looking great entering the Olympic break. They obviously around New Year's of the calendar year were like terrible, and it just seemed like they were going to stale out. I mean, it was what March, like it was around St. Patrick's Day that the Flyers had like a 5% chance to make the playoffs, and then you go on this crazy run. You get a lot of help from the teams around you, losing a bunch, and here you are, where again, you still control your own destiny, but you definitely made it harder by not even able to get a point on Thursday. That's really the frustrating part is that couldn't even stomach a point out of it. You played the Red Wings twice. You played the Red Wings 3 times in the end of the season, and you only mustered 2 points out of a possible 6. That's just not. It's not great. It's really not where you wanted to be at there. And yeah, we'll have to see, but tonight's a huge game for them if they wanna make it, and if they do make it, it's guaranteed it would be a Flyers-Penguins first round, which I think would be Huge for the NHL. The NHL getting a big ratings boost on national TV in the regular season with the Flyers on. They would definitely get a huge ratings boost if you had a Flyers Penguins first round matchup. And I think it would just be really good for the Flyers in the city as well. Obviously, you're getting a lot of people flyered up and paying attention to what's going on now. But if you had a Flyers Penguins first round playoff matchup, I think that would do a lot of goodwill and put like good pressure on you to really make some key moves in the offseason to put yourself in a spot where you're expected to make the playoffs as opposed to, you know, expected for another median year that if you got hot at the right time, you could make it, which is kind of what's happening right now. So, yeah, it would be massive, I guess, for them to make it at this point because they've gone too
I'm happy
far
that
the
we're in
other
a much more
direction.
positive place talking about the Flyers and not like scorched earth like we talked about almost every show like last year around this time.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I want to pivot to the Sixers. So the Sixers got some pretty brutal news this week. Um, Joel Embiid went under emergency surgery to get an appendectomy. His appendix was, I guess, bursting, and he had to get it removed. Surgery went well. He's on his way. He's probably home at this point, back in Philadelphia, and indefinite, indefinite timetable on when he's going to return. The history of these not even injuries, the histories of these procedures are you miss about a month or so, um, most likely longer than just a month. So, you know, obviously that shut down his regular season. Obviously, it is more than likely it for him this year because it's hard to imagine the Sixers not only winning the play-in and also winning a first-round playoff matchup to maybe get a shot to see Embiid come back. So, all likely, he's done for the season, which sucks. It really, really does. It just blows. But it's, the most cursed like franchise in the history of sports, maybe the way this last like decade has gone for
Do
them.
you
It's
notice?
truly
Have
remarkable.
you noticed that the teams that are like most cursed in American sports right now, their owners were mentioned in the Epstein file? I mean, the files.
Yeah, no, it does feel like there's something to that. I wouldn't be
And
surprised. Some
Carmick
divine
about that.
intervention, maybe. Yeah, exactly. So pretty brutal. Really, really upsetting. Obviously, for a guy that's like plays through everything all the time, even though people act like he doesn't. He's one of the toughest players in the league. You go through all this sort of stuff, and you finally like you just get to a point where it's like, okay, he's gonna be like pretty healthy entering the playoffs, all things considered. Like he might be still dealing with some byproducts of the oblique issue, but ultimately it seems like it's kind of passed and he looks really good. Like he looked great in that Spurs game, even though they lost, but he looked great. And it felt like, you know what? You're just gonna get it. He's gonna be pretty healthy. And then like this comes up and it's like truly extremely unpreventable. And there's really nothing at all that can be done about it other than what's occurring. And that sucks a lot. Maxi seems like he might have re-injured his pinky at some point. There was obviously always going to be risk with him coming back, no matter when he came back. Like if he was still sitting this whole time and decided to come back today, like it was still going to be pretty much the same injury risk for him to re-injure it. And it's not like confirmed that he re-injured it, but just kind of by the way he's playing and like the his aggressiveness is kind of swaying back and forth. The jump shot really isn't consistent at the moment. Like it just feels like the pinky is clearly bothering him. He's having some uncharacteristic turnovers, all that sort of stuff, and that's really frustrating as well. You're putting a lot on Paul George's plate, which he's been able to handle mostly since coming back from the suspension. He's looked great. He's looked like shades of Thunder Paul George, which is a great version of Paul George to have. Last few nights, he's had some poor shooting performances, and like ultimately, if he's not going to be shooting well, like you almost have zero chance the way that the team is kind of constructed with everyone on there. So we'll see. Their playoff odds. It is looking very likely that they're going to be in the play-in. They would need a minor miracle.
They got some help the other night with the Cavs beating the Hawks.
It just feels they need a minor miracle. The Sixers need to beat Milwaukee, which like again, it's not nothing's a guarantee the way they're kind of built out, but it definitely they're going to be
Dude,
heavily
this
favored in that
NBA
game.
playoff run for the Sixers is like you talk about conquering your demons. You need to beat Doc Rivers to improve your standings in the play-in tournament.
Yeah.
You then will have to either face so who are like the play-in teams?
So here's the playoff scenarios at the current moment. The Sixers, in order to get the sixth seed and avoid the play-in altogether, would need to beat Milwaukee, and they would also need some help. They would need the Orlando Magic to lose to the Boston Celtics, who, by the way, just clinched the two seed. So can't say that I'm expecting Tatum or Jaylen Brown or anyone of note on the Celtics to be playing in that game. So that feels like a tall ask for the Celtics to go out and beat Orlando. And if somehow the Celtics do beat Orlando, they would also need the Toronto Raptors to lose to the Brooklyn Nets. Now, the Brooklyn Nets have
Are
roughly
well, they're infamous for blowing their tank jobs, but
the
dude,
Brooklyn Nets have
this is
20 wins on the season. So,
yeah.
and the Pacers have 19. So there is absolutely incentive for them to lose the game. It just again, to avoid the play-in, you need to
Imagine
win
if
and
the
you need
Nets
like two
win
minor
and like
miracles.
imagine if the Nets actually like win.
I mean, it'd be frustrating if both the things you need to happen and then you lose. Yeah, that would be awful.
Nah, that would be on brand for the Sixers.
But if one of those things happen, so the Sixers win and then either of those teams lose, you would lock in the 7th seed, which is, a home play-in game similar to what it was in the 2023-24 season, when they beat Miami in the play-in. We all remember the Nicholas Batum game. He had, like, 6 threes. That was incredible. Uh, they did winning last night did clinch them to avoid the 9 or 10 seed, which is nice. You're not required to play 2 games in order to make the playoffs. You could just win, against whoever you play and and be the 7 seed. But I think the most likely scenario at this point is that both the Magic and the Raptors are going to win their games. In that scenario, it doesn't matter what the Sixers do, and they are just locked into the 8 seed. And I think in that situation, they would be playing the Orlando Magic in Orlando in the play-in. And if they win the play-in, they would be rewarded with making the playoffs as the 7th seed and a date with the Boston Celtics. So
Hooray!
one more Celtics, one more. It just feels like we're heading down this path where we have one more time for the Sixers to get spanked by Boston in the playoffs, and one more time for Sidney Crosby to just absolutely rip our hearts out in the playoffs against the Penguins, and then we're just fully
I don't think
off
both
the
will.
spring sports. I
I
think both will happen for certain. Crosby is going to have like 5 points in games 3 and 4 of this series alone, and it's going to be brutal. It's going to be actually horrible to watch, but it'll be fun because we're in the playoffs, I guess. But we know what's going to happen. We don't have to pretend like it's not going to happen. You know what I mean? Like, there's no way that whatever. We'll cross the bridge when we get to it. So pretty doom and gloom, I'd say, for the Sixers and for the Flyers. There's like optimism, but there is definitely a dark cloud rolling in at this current moment that would be nice if they could run away from it and just get into the playoffs, and then you just deal with Crosby one more time. I really thought that the timeline of everything, by the time the Flyers would be ready to make the playoffs, like Crosby would just be gone, whether that means retired, whether that means the Penguins just suck, just gone. And like, of course, he's just waiting there for one more time to just stab me right in the throat, I
don't know.
guess.
Did you see the tweet? I think I sent it to you. It's like this is the last dance for Gino and Crosby, Letang
Yeah, yeah. No,
against
it's their
the
last run.
rattiest Flyers team in team history. in terms of ratdom could like
Yeah.
ruin that because Malkin's a free agent. Letang's this is his last year.
Hmm.
Crosby's going to be like year to year, especially with like his age, the concussions he's had in the past, the knee injury he suffered, just trying to avoid Radko Gudas, like trying to dome him again,
Right. Right.
like crap like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, well, the biggest news I would say in Philly sports this week did not involve anybody from the city, Michael.
Yeah. So before we have some actual Eagles news that like affects the on-field product, big scandal in the NFL. Diana Rossini, our favorite reporter here, um, seen at a romantic adults only resort, taking some uh what's the word I'm thinking of? Taking
Compromising.
some compromising photos with head coach of
Braves.
the New England Patriots, Mike Vrabel. So really makes you think. And since this story has come out, there have been like endless, and by endless I mean endless, clips resurfacing and old article links and old everything of Diana Rossini making interesting comments about Mike Vrabel, talking very poorly about her husband on national TV and other big public forums, and articles of her being with general managers in exchange for information, and their wives catching it and putting it out there, and potential other coaches across the league like
Michael,
Sean McVay. Like
I'm
it's
gonna
really a
say
lot
this. I'm
here.
gonna say this. I think we all know somebody who's like a Diana Rossini, and
We all know a Diana Rousseau.
we all know like a Diana Rossini, and yeah, this checks out. This 1,000% checks out. Um, the complaining about their spouse, it almost tells me like that's almost like a massive red flag of like
Yeah.
infidelity. I just you're on national television talking like bad about your husband. Like imagine if like it's like I don't know. I do feel like it could be like a double standard. Like there's a famous clip of like John Gruden on like Mic'd Up where he's like yelling at a player. He's like, "You're like my wife when she's in space. She just gets lost."
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's like ha 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 ha, but it's not. It's like I don't know. It's like
I mean, the clips are her like calling her husband like boring and like kind of lame and like you know what I mean? It's like classic boomer humor, but it's just a little weird. Like,
it's also like she has a clip saying mentioning her husband being an Eagles fan and how she loved reporting negative stories to piss him off. Did you see that one?
yeah, yeah. It's just it's all a little much for me. It's so
Very
ridiculous.
extra is the term I think
Yeah.
we're looking. Very extra.
Yeah. Everyone's piling on Diana Rossini, and like kind of deservedly so, for sure. But like no one's piling on Mike Vrabel. We kind of talked about this pre-show a little bit. He deserves definitely significantly more crap than he's getting, which is zero. Um, he's got a wife. He's got two kids. Like he's just as bad in this as he is. He's just not publicly saying things that are upsetting fan bases with reports. You know what I mean? Like the only reason that Eagles fans are so much nosediving at her is because of the whole AJ Brown saga. And the only
Well,
reason
let's
that a
bring
lot
this
of
to
people are
football.
pushing on her too is she's a woman. But
Let's bring this to the football ramifications. So, if you recall, the last time the Eagles there was like a tampering situation involving the Eagles. Well, there's actually two. The first one, the most recent one, was the whole Saquon, where the Eagles talking to Saquon before they were allowed to,
right.
even though the Giants clearly stated they had no intentions of re-signing him. Did the Eagles have an advantage because Saquon's from the area? There's connections here to Saquon. They could speak through those channels that like other teams did not have. You know what I mean? There's that. The Eagles got away. Eagles didn't get punished for it. I think it was kind of like it was a done deal. However, a lot of people, including C.J. Gardner-Johnson, feel that the way a certain former Eagles defensive coordinator, now former Cardinals head coach, now current defensive coordinator for the Green Bay Packers, Mr. Jonathan Gannon, the way he was having meetings when he wasn't supposed to with the Cardinals the week that they were supposed to prep for the Super Bowl, to where C.J. Gardner-Johnson just comes out and flat out says he was more focused on getting the Cardinals job / didn't care about the Super Bowl.
Right.
Now, I don't think that's 100% true.
I think it's probably a little hyperbolic the way that
it's
fans
pretty hyperbolic.
it.
I don't blame him for being upset, but the Eagles, like Gannon, immediately went to the hotel, did not go to the presser after the game,
right,
like he was supposed to, and then the Eagles basically got a free 3rd round pick, like
for their troubles. Yes.
For their troubles, to avoid the Eagles making this a bigger deal, because it would have upped. I think the NFL told the Cardinals, look, we don't want to have to completely redo how we handled like the coaching hiring process because you morons totally screwed this up.
Especially because it's like the Super Bowl too, where it's like all of a sudden now you get like the NFL admitting there's an issue that unfairly affected a team in a Super Bowl. That's just not what like the NFL wants.
We don't want to make the. We don't want to like make the.
We don't want to diminish the Chiefs Super Bowl win. We don't want to kind of sour the product, despite the fact that the field already did that for itself. But neither here nor there. Yeah, no, all that makes sense. Go ahead.
Well, Michael, the Eagles have been fielding calls this offseason for A.J. Brown.
Sure.
The Eagles are, looking to acquire more assets. I think A.J. Brown is the guy that would probably fetch the most, and plus his cap number is, really big, and they have guys on the roster they want to re-sign. The Eagles are looking to,
Sure, and like there's a sense that it makes, but ultimately it feels like he probably wants out. And
right.
She's been the biggest reporter on the story, and it's like her being with Mike Vrabel, who's the biggest team that's been linked to AJ Brown, for the Titans connection, and for the fact that it would make a lot of sense for a young budding team with a young star quarterback to get a true number 1 receiver. All this makes sense. Like football perspective, that trade makes sense. Like previous history perspective, that trade makes sense. But when you see how much it's getting pushed, it's almost like, all right, there's like huge cap implications that kill the Eagles if this trade happens. Now, if this trade happens like this offseason versus next offseason, all these sort of things that like make it not make sense. And when those kind of get ignored for the sake of whatever, and then this sort of story comes out, it makes you think. And even Adam Schefter says it. It's like, was she too close to the A.J. Brown story? And it's like, maybe she was. And I don't know. Like everyone's saying like, oh, this means the story has no merit. Like those are just, I think, Eagles fans that are a little delusional. But I do think it makes it a little suspect.
But here it makes it questions the source, because we talk about sources all the time. Like, so just like kind of just general knowledge in the NFL, most sources are agents.
Right.
Oh, according to sources, the Eagles, Cowboys, and Packers are inquiring on the status of Rashawn Gary. It's the agent fielding calls from those teams, being like, "Hey, are you interested in my client?" And then they gets a text from Schefter, "Hey, what's going on with so and so? Who's looking to sign him? He's got meetings lined up with this team, and this team." And you leak it because you want to pressure one of those teams to get more aggressive to acquire. I'm like, oh god, the Cowboys are involved. We got to up our offer.
Right.
You
No,
know?
absolutely.
There's a benefit to it. Like, so there's some sort of upshot
It's
benefit.
not nothing than just reporting. Like those reports influence teams to act.
Yes.
Yeah.
So what is the upside of Diana Rossini having a potentially inappropriate relationship with an NFL head coach? How would this benefit New England? Well, if you've been following a lot of the reports that have been coming out, and a lot of these other reporters that kind of spun off Rossini's reporting saying, "Oh, Diana's doing all the work on this. Like she's worked
Yeah.
really hard on this." Yeah, I bet she did.
Yeah.
All like the things she's been reporting, a lot. It's basically Mike Vrabel. I think it's Mike. I personally think it's Mike Vrabel telling Diana Rossini, "Hey, look, I want to get AJ in New England. What can we do to do two things? One, lower the asking price the Eagles have for him. Two, scare off any other teams from wanting him."
Yeah. Yeah.
So what?
And you
So
get
what?
stuff
what
that
so what
comes
are
out
they
with the
doing? So what are they doing to
knees.
lower the price and drive teams away? One, they're kind of character assassinating AJ Brown. They're making him come off like he's a psycho. You
Total
know,
diva. Yeah.
total
Yeah.
diva. Number one, and you're wondering if Vrabel's telling AJ because they're friends. They text from time to time. I'll get you over to New England, but we're going to make you look bad in the media.
Who knows, man? It's a lot of speculation, but from what you like actually hear from Eagles reporters and players of like how they like AJ and how they feel about AJ, you don't feel like he's actually a locker room cancer. So like when those sort of reports come out, it makes it hard to believe,
Dude, he
like you
lives
said.
in the area. He does camps for kids, like
He's
free
universally
camps.
loved by his teammates. Like
He seems
it's
like a
just
very good guy, but they're making it sound like he's To or like
it's like
Randy
Tio
Moss.
but worse. You know what I mean? Like it's just not whatever. Regard yeah, all this to say, the Eagles did make another move for a wideout that kind of kicks this into overdrive to an extent. They went out and signed Dontavian Wicks,
Oh, they acquired him via
or
trade.
they traded for Dontavian Wicks, a fifth and a sixth. That's right,
They traded a
and
fifth round pick this year and a
a
sixth
sixth
round
next
pick
year.
next year. And listen, with based off the Eagles, like I have no idea what the comp pick formula is going to look like for next year. But seeing as how like they're probably going to wait till after like they did last year where they signed some guys after the deadline day to still get the comp picks.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
So we'll see how that all shakes out.
they
But
didn't really give up a whole lot to get Dontavian Wicks. I agree.
no, they have a fifth and a sixth, and then they gave him a 1 year extension for 2027 worth $12.5 million. Now, a lot of things here. Acquiring Dontavian Wicks for this season kind of rules out like needing to draft a wideout in the event that they do trade AJ Brown before the season. Like as it stood, if they did trade AJ like post June 1st because it helps their cap better, they would have needed to have drafted a wide receiver in like the first 2 rounds because you don't have any future plans for your wideouts outside of Devontae Smith. And it's like I don't think you want to enter the following season as it being such a glaring need, let alone playing this season out with your receiving core of being Smitty, Hollywood Brown, and like Darius Cooper and Elijah Moore. Like that's very uninspiring. Um, Trading AJ Brown regardless makes your team worse, absolutely. But regardless to all this, they gave him the 1 year, $12.5 million extension for 2027. That like all but confirms that AJ will definitely be off the team by at least prior to next season. It's something that I've already come to terms with because after this season, moving off of AJ Brown becomes financially helpful to the Eagles. It becomes like
I feel like we've
something
been
that
saying this for like
does free
3 years
up cap
with
space.
Dallas Goddard.
Yeah, but it's like it is true that, after 2026 was the year that it would make sense for the Eagles to look elsewhere than AJ Brown. And like
Well,
depending on how he looks and health and all that sort of stuff, they'd consider
we're gonna
keeping him.
talk about the NFL draft in like next week in like future shows, but I have a feeling The Eagles are going to wait. Next year's draft is going to be more loaded at wide receiver, especially near the top.
I mean, this one's pretty good, I'd say. There's no like Jamar Chase or whatever, but I do think it's got some nice players in it. Regardless, we'll talk about that more later. The options with AJ with this Wicks signing becomes like he gets traded after June 1st. Sucks. Makes your team worse. And you just kind of got to deal with it and it blows. And your receiving core is like Smitty, Wicks, Hollywood Brown, Darius
With
Cooper,
this
Elijah
being
Moore.
Lane's last year, I don't think it makes sense to trade AJ Brown this year. You wait, you give it.
Regardless, if he's like pushing that bad to want to go and the asking price is good enough, like they're gonna do it. Like they're just gonna do it. Um,
Yeah, but I think let me go back to my other point though. We talk about trading him to New England, we'll just say. If Vrabel was trying to tamper to lower the asking price to trade AJ Brown, isn't it a little problematic if you like still want to send him there? Like if you're the Eagles, like that's one thing. Like if I'm Howie Roseman, I find out that the head coach is potentially trying to scare off other suitors, for example, like the Rams, right? I'm trying to get the best deal possible, and you're not acting in good faith. That's because
I mean,
that is the 100% not acting in good faith, right? Then if I'm the Eagles, you know, I'm talking to I forget Elliot Wolf is their GM. It's really Mike Vrabel has got final say on the roster, realistically.
it just doesn't matter. I think it doesn't matter if they're gonna get good compensation or not. Like if whatever they want a first plus. If we're here at June 1st and like New England's offering a first and a third, I don't think Howie's gonna like you know what I mean? I don't think he might go to other teams with that and be like, "Hey, can you match it?" And if they don't, I think he's gonna take it. If they're like, regardless of this situation or not, if they're getting a first and something else, I think they're gonna do it. If it's not if they're not getting that, I don't think they're gonna, like, rush to do it, but I really do think it'll depend on if they're gonna get the draft pick like, wherever they get the draft pick compensation from, like, I think they're gonna do it. If that Rams report was that serious, like, I find it hard to believe he'd trade him to an NFC contender like that, but if it was really that serious, then clearly all he cares about is where the return is coming, like what the return is. And if the Rams' return is going to be the best offer, like I think there's a decent chance he does that. If New England's return is going to be the best offer, I think there's a really good chance that he does that. So ultimately, while I do think it matters this situation, I think it doesn't as much as what the return is flat out. Like if New England's still going to offer a first and a third or more or whatever, he's gonna do it regardless of what it is, and
I think
he'll
they
let
want
them
to.
handle the drama. Like he'll that drama will fall on New England of like, oh, right after this happens, then the trade goes to like that is not the Eagles' issue at all. Like at that point, it really is not. That is, not their circus, not their monkeys. But what I'm kind of talking myself into and what I'm thinking is going to happen and what I'm hoping is happening. Maybe it's a little too much hope versus what is actually occurring in front of my face, but what I think makes the most sense for all parties involved and definitely gives the Eagles their best chance to win in 2026 and, even beyond, I guess, with cap stipulations is they have a little you mentioned Last Dance with the Penguins, they have a little Last Dance of their own. They have a little this is it with AJ Brown and, like, Jalen Hurts together, like, this is the last dance. We got one more shot to win another one and have a great year with the new OC and happy day, and after this season, you know, say they win the Super Bowl and AJ has a great year and he has a great playoff run. Maybe all these snotty fans won't be so mad when they trade him away and can be like, man, what a great Eagle he actually was that almost single handedly turned the offense around when they acquired him. And and you go out on good terms like that. I think that has a good probability of happening at this point. I think at least they're willing to enter the season with that, and if it's, like, the end of September and he's still kinda miserable and, the offense isn't maybe looking as good and whatever, I could see a possibility of an in-season trade with him. Now, would I want that to happen? Like, absolutely not. I think that would be the most frustrating thing to deal with, but it is possible. Um, so I'm hoping for a last dance situation, and your receiving core, not for nothing, like, if it is, your receiving core is really buffed out with AJ, Devontae, Wicks, Hollywood Brown as, like, your top 4. That is quite a very nice receiving core without a doubt, and then you throw in your Darius Cooper, Johnny Wilson, and other depth pieces. Like, that's good right there, man. That is a really nice receiving core. Definitely the best that you've had in the last, like, 5 years. So you know, that's what I'm hoping for, you know? What do you I think we should talk a little bit about Dontavian Wicks as a player himself. I think we have differing opinions on it, but
Yeah, I just don't think he should be the AJ Brown replacement. I think the Eagles know that.
yeah.
Um, as someone who's been playing fantasy football a lot the last 3 years, Dontavian Wicks is probably one of the most frustrating players in fantasy because I think when you watch him play, you see the explosiveness downfield. You can see like, oh, this guy could be a player, right? He could be a good receiver, but he just can't, for whatever reason, can't put it all together. And Michael, it's not like the Packers never gave him opportunities. It's not like Christian Watson's been hurt nonstop. It's not like Jaden Reed was hurt almost all last year. It's not like Romeo Dobbs like went AWOL for 2 weeks, you know. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's been opportunities for him to break out the last 3 years. And, like, dude, not for anything. When the Eagles, like, have good receivers, it's either they're already established or they invested a very high draft pick in them, right? Like
Yeah.
Macklin, Deshaun Jackson was an early second round pick. On the flip side, Jalen Rieger, bust. J Jaw, bust. Like,
I mean, they've definitely been on both sides of the spectrum. Devonta Smith, great. AJ Brown cost your first round pick.
right. But
Great.
like, I don't know. It's like if you draft like an actually talented receiver, the Eagles have made out well, as opposed to like, why are we drafting this guy that Moss's accountants at Stanford? Right.
Regardless.
Anyway,
Yeah.
like he's a guy, I just get annoyed when like you said, the anti AJ crowd's like, oh my god, look at this great Dontavian Wicks route. Oh my, it's like, dude,
Yeah, it's
you're an
disingenuous for
absolute
sure.
idiot if you
Right.
truly think that Dontavian Wicks can just step in here with Jalen Hurts and produce at the same clip as AJ Brown.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. But I do think there's untapped potential. You look at Dontavian Wicks' stats,
Oh,
they're not gonna, like, totally blow you away, but like you said, he's had opportunities, but it is a pretty
Aaron
busy.
Moorhead's still the wide receiver coach.
Yeah, I know,
That
I
that's
know.
not getting tapped, Michael. You know that for a fact.
I
He
mean, we'll
should be
see.
fired. He should not
He's
have been
with
tapped. That's
he's with Mannion, there's familiarity in the system for sure, and I'm sure Mannion was, like, the one that kinda pushed at him and, like, "I really like Dontavian. I really think there's room for him here."
well, he knows the offense.
Yeah, he knows the offense, which is nice, and he's a good blocker, like, for sure, and that's something that we've not had good blocking receivers outside of Johnny Wilson in 2024, um, for a while. Like, truly, the receivers have not been great blockers, and he is definitely one, and that helps your run game as much as it can help your passing game, screen game, your quick game, like, creating explosive plays because you get a downfield block from a receiver that, like, no one on the team has really been a willing blocker, like, since Nelson, really, and that's something that could be really nice for them.
I kind of like the Nelson comp. I actually like that. That's
I
kind of who
think
he is.
yeah, I mean, I hope he's a little bit better, but, like, you look at his numbers, and he definitely he's got 11 touchdowns in 3 seasons, and he was a little banged up last year, only played 14 games. Not that that's nothing, but he had 4 touchdowns his rookie year, he had 5 touchdowns his second year, and he had 2 touchdowns last season. Um, he had, like, the 15 yards per reception his rookie year, like, definitely could be an explosive play guy, both as, like, a downfield threat and also making plays after the catch. You see a lot of his touchdowns, and they kinda him breaking a tackle in the red zone and then getting in. Like, it's there's a lot of flashes in the pan that make you
I know
think,
the
like,
Packers fans are not
there's some
happy they
shots here.
traded him.
Yeah, there are some Packers fans that liked him a lot and think that there is something more there. So, I don't think this is like a total bust move in my eyes. I don't think this is like a, "Oh, they're overpaying," or, the 12 they're trying to get out ahead of it a little bit, where it's like, say they didn't give him the extension, and they just traded a 5th and 6th for him for a one-year situation, and, he's on the roster, say they keep AJ's on the roster, and, the passing offense, it's improved with Mannion, and you're like, "Wow, Dontayvion Wicks, like,
Sirianni only
really having a
works because
nice
he
season."
runs the most routes he runs are hitch routes.
Yeah, I get it. I think that's more like people just looking for something to get upset at, but I hear you, it's there. But if he has, like, a nice season this year and you didn't have him under contract, that's something for next year, that's something where it's like, okay, you look at how the receiver market got paid out this year, where receivers got a lot of money. Dontayvion Wicks has a nice season. Now it's like, oh, Dontayvion Wicks is looking to sign a 3-year, $42 million deal, and it's like, that's not nothing. Whereas you give him the 1 year, 12 and a half extension on top of it, you could maybe have him for, 1 year at a prove it and coming off potentially a nice season. It could all work out. So in a vacuum, I like this move. Obviously, with the byproducts of what this could mean for AJ, it makes me just worried generally, and it has really nothing to do with him and more to just do with everything else around it. So we'll see. I'm actually excited for Dontavian Wicks. I think it's a nice move. I think he's a nice little player, and I think there's something more there that maybe the Eagles don't have the best infrastructure to fully develop them, but I do think that the connection with Sean Mannion could be enough of a comfort thing for him to, you know, be a little bit better on maybe a more well-rounded offense, perhaps. It's not like he's coming from somewhere that blows. Green Bay, obviously, has been a really good offense for 4 years. So, um, but yeah, we'll have the NFL draft coming up soon. We'll talk more about that at a later date. But baseball time, the Philadelphia Phillies. So
Yikes!
really frustrating stretch of games here. You flash back almost 2 weeks at this point, about 10 days since they came from behind to beat the Washington Nationals to wrap out their opening week at home. And that was like nice, encouraging going into a West Coast trip, which always kind of feels like death, but maybe not this time because you're going up against two not so great teams. You take 2 of 3 from Colorado, you're not really sweating it. Nice, you scored a lot of runs in the one game, you pitched well in the other game. It is what it is. You're going to lose sometimes. Then you go to San Francisco and you're just like, you know what's coming, and it seems like it's starting out. It seems like it's starting to be a disaster where Andrew Painter isn't really pitching all that sharp. He's a little all over the place, and he gives up some runs. You're down 4-0. It all kind of sucks. But then they rally. They rally in the late innings. They come back. They put up 6 runs off the Giants. I think it was all their bullpen. I'm not totally remembering correctly, but they end up coming from behind and winning the first game in a series in San Francisco since 2014. And that it feels significant. They haven't won a series out there since 2013, but they won the first game since 2014. And that feels fun. That's cool. That's exciting. You have Sanchez going the next day. You feel like you're going to win a series out in San Fran, and Sanchez doesn't pitch very well. He isn't very sharp, and it's something he's kind of working through, but that's not even the biggest story. They don't score a run since like Tuesday or whatever. Like they lose that game. Sanchez doesn't look great, and then they lose the rubber match on Wednesday afternoon. Nola's looking good. He's cruising. He's battling, and he just kind of leaves one out over the plate, and Rafael Devers smacks it for a 3-run home run. And you kind of look to the other side, and the Phillies have like 3 crummy hits, and they end up just getting kind of rolled. The bullpen, they couldn't keep it, but it didn't matter anyways because they didn't score. So you drop 2 of 3 in San Francisco. You go 3 on 3 on the road trip. It's pretty disappointing. And then to follow it up on Friday last night, you jump out to a 4-0 lead in the first inning. You feel great about it. Luzardo is cruising. But something that kind of bit him at parts of last year is sort of biting him at points of this year early on, and that's frustrating. And it's the big inning. He cruises through 4 innings in his sleep, really no stress, just dominant. And fifth inning rolls around, single, walk, bunt single. That was a weird play. You mix in a couple strikeouts, but you give up a 2-run single to Marte, give up an RBI
Yeah,
single.
what's
You're
up
only
with
up
bunting now
1.
being kind of back in MLB? Because
Yeah.
you see last night that the Nationals laid down 3 bunts.
Certain teams definitely do it a lot. I wouldn't necessarily call them good teams, but teams do it.
Ratty teams,
Um,
most certainly.
yeah. And then, he gives up the big double to James McCann. JT drops the ball, which would have tugged him out and kept the game tied, but he dropped it. Um, and they went down 5-4, and that's all the Diamondbacks needed. The Phillies scored 4 runs in the first inning and then proceeded to score 0 the rest of the game and didn't really threaten much throughout the course of the rest of the game. And they lost again, and it's frustrating right now. The offense is kind of what it's been, but definitely on the
No,
bigger.
I never seen this offense right now. It's like
It's Schwarber's not hitting. That's the big one. Like, we've seen Trey go through slumps. We've seen everyone else go through slumps, and obviously we've seen Schwarber and Harper go through slumps, but currently Kyle Schwarber looks quite lost at the plate, and, like, that's kind of where your
yeah, the
offense is
guys they've
dying.
re-signed, they're not to big contracts right now. I mean, it's not. You're right. It's not looking great at the moment.
No, and, like, do I think Schwarber's gonna be lost all season? No, but he looks lost currently. He's challenging strikes that are in the zone, and he's getting them wrong, and he's, like, taking strike threes down the middle because he's looking for something else, and it's like, that's brutal. Like, when he's in a bad mode, you know it because he's taking 2-2 fastballs that are, like, on a tee because he's just expecting something else, and
I'll say
that's
this.
not good, man.
I'm going to say this about the offense. I would have to agree. It's not good when Michael. Maybe your best hitter right now is Justin Crawford, and he can't elevate the ball.
Well, he almost did yesterday. Ninth inning, nearly hit his first career homer that hit like the top of the little Blue Cross banner in right field.
He's
That's like
also
you
like your
couldn't.
most. Now he's like probably your most clutch hitter too. Like,
It is something that he seems to, at least at this point,
is he one of your I guess
he
we
seems like
have.
he's got some balls on him. He seems like he's not like totally lost out there. No, he's not one of my 3 stars, but that's not anything. He'd probably be like the fourth if I stretched it to 4. Um, Listen, I don't think he's been, like, incredible. He actually had a very awful defensive series in San Francisco, like, unironically cost you multiple runs with some bad defense out there, just not getting the balls or taking bad routes, being a little lazy on a fly balls, letting runners tag up, like, things that are, like, very easily correctable and things he'll develop and get better at, but definitely had a rough defensive week, I'd say, for sure. But it's, long season. Ultimately, I think they'll be
I
fine.
really don't put stock in April baseball.
No, you can't. You really can't do too much. There's things that you could look at and acknowledge, but ultimately it is not
Let's
end
say
all
the
be
Phillies
all.
right now are like 10-1. Throw or like
I mean, look at the Dodgers. The Dodgers are what? 10-3, 10-2 maybe, like, and they're the Dodgers, but the Dodgers never really start this hot. Do I think the Dodgers are gonna win 120 games this year? No, absolutely not. But, like, they're going to be at such a hot pace through the first 2 months of the season that it's like they're realistic finishing with, like, say, 105 wins, which is still an
Well, I would say
amazing
that
season.
a lot of things that affected the Dodgers' win totals has been injuries.
Yeah, and it's just like the way they handle the regular season. They don't seem to like care about it as much as some other teams because they know they're like, listen, we just got to get in, and if we're healthy, we're fine. Um, but regardless, the Phillies, they got Taiwan going today. They might lose, and that would really blow. But it'd be
I want
nice if they could just hit for a game. That the problem is that they're they hit in like one big inning, and that's kind of it. Last year, it felt like they would hit in the end of games, and like it was, resulting in wins. They'd go pretty quiet for most of the game, and then they turn it on. Kind of like how the first game in San Francisco went, where they were quiet all day, and then they erupted against the bullpen, and they ended up stealing the game. They did that a lot last year. I remember looking at a lot of their team splits. Their hitting numbers in late and close situations, which is the seventh inning or later with like the tying run on deck, respectively, for like each team. You know what I mean? Like that sort of thing. They were great in those stats. They were great in high leverage stats. Like it was things that made me kind of believe in them in the playoffs a little bit. And this year, obviously, again, very small. Everything's a very small sample size. It's kind of like the opposite. They tagged Lorenzen for 7 runs, 9 runs in like the first 2 innings, and then they scored what, 2, 3 runs in the remaining of the game, the remaining of like the series, I should say, out in Colorado. Um, Last night, great example. Harper hits a nice double to give him a run. Brandon Marsh hits a 3-run home run. Everything's like, oh, here we go. Here's the
we're back.
typical 8-run Phillies performance, and we'll see how the rest of the series goes. But then that was it for the game. They couldn't get a they again, they didn't threaten much, and then they obviously didn't score, and they struck out a ton. And it's frustrating. It really is frustrating, but again, it's it's fine. Like it's hard to get super worked up about April baseball, even though a lot of people seem to have no trouble doing that. It's more just like annoying than anything, and you just hope the trends kind of buck. The one thing I want to talk about is um, the lineup situation, where obviously this series, I think the lineup's going to look a little different than it does all year because the Diamondbacks have a total of 0 left-handed relievers in the bullpen. So
Looking like my Diamond
Topper
Dynasty team. No, I'm just kidding.
Topper has no issue stacking the lefties in the lineup. And like first inning, it looked like it was genius. Turner gets on with a single. Um, Schwarber gets on with a walk, and then you get, Harper a double, and then Marsh hitting cleanup hits the home run. It's like, oh yeah, there's look at Rob cooking up. I wonder if he'll get credit for this one. And obviously they don't score the rest of the game, but it's like it was promising.
Michael, you and I both know when it comes to like baseball and like the manager, what the manager does like before the game, like setting the lineup and using the bullpen and whatnot. I don't, I don't think. I just also, I don't. I hate to say this because I know a lot of old heads put a lot of stock in this. Who the hell? Who cares where a guy bats in a lineup? Realistically, like you mean to tell me Alec Boehm, whether he bats ninth or bats leadoff, should that affect what his goal is when he goes to the plate?
No, no, it really shouldn't.
Right?
It does, and it doesn't. Like the lineup. Topper's been pretty traditional when it comes to the lineup over his tenure here. He has his lineup, he sets it, and like he'll swap for righties and lefties, but that's kind of it. Like he hasn't really been the full like Gabe experience where you're shuffling the lineup every day, like you're
Rice is batting leadoff.
right, you're like tweaking stuff like that. Like he hasn't really been that way, and it seems like perhaps the best way to maximize this iteration of the Phillies would be to kind of shuffle it around. You can keep your top 3 the way you want to keep it if you want to do Turner, Schwarber, Harper all season long, but 4 through
I have to
7,
put
4
Schwarber back at leadoff. If it's like a
sure,
mental thing.
maybe, but like 4 through 8, like, because I'd like to keep Crawford ninth all year. 4 through 8, I mean, that might be fair game to be shuffled almost every day, and, like, honestly, I wouldn't even hate that. Like, do I think any hitter's gonna be better off if they're hitting 4th every single day? Not particularly when your options, I guess, are Marsh, Bohm, or, like, Adolis Garcia. Is one of those guys really gonna get super comfortable hitting 4th, and if they're not hitting 4th, they're gonna, like, go in the dumpster? Like, probably not. If it's a righty on the mound and you wanna stack your lefties, go for it, man. They got 4 straight lefties hitting in the middle of the order. If it's a lefty on the mound and you got guys on the bench and you think Garcia gives you the best shot hitting 4th and then, Bohm, whatever, go for it. That's the sort of stuff that I wanna see. That's the sort of stuff that I like seeing in terms of trying stuff, because your lineup isn't good enough for you to feel forced to lock it in and leave it the way it is all season. It's not like outside of the top 3, it's not consistent enough and it's not dominant enough to say, okay, this guy has to hit 4th, this guy has to hit 5th, this guy has to hit 6th. Like, you don't. It's not that good. Like, it's not top 3 where it's like, okay, everyone's got their role. It's like closer to the 10th best lineup, and you can shuffle it around. You can afford to take advantage of those margins by putting, you know, Garcia 4th one day or putting Marsh 4th like he's hitting again today because again, Diamondbacks have no lefties in the bullpen, so you're gonna get this lineup every day. And like I think I think trying shit like that is good from the manager. I think that's worth experimenting with to see where you can steal runs, to see where you can steal favorable at bats, and it's
Well,
kind of
Michael, if you're talking
it's
about
important.
stealing runs, stealing at bats, I mean, I, to me, this is what kind of frustrates me. But I think with the offense the last couple years is they waste outs when they get men on base, like very bad plate approach. And Casty was like the poster child for that, right? You know,
Hmm.
he's not here anymore to blame. You know,
Right.
you need to, like, I think Bryce has done a very good job over the last week or so. I feel like he's back. Schwarber, like, we know Kyle goes through these like slumps. Like
Yeah.
it just happens, right? But
Yeah.
you put up with it because he's like in like August he's going to be raking. Trey, very streaky player, right? Now it's like now we talk about, but you talk about the rest of the lineup. Like, I need to see more from Dolly. I need to see more from him. I need.
Yeah. You look at a guy like
I like
Adolis.
I like that Alec Bohm's worked hard on his defense. Like, he's been actually been me. He might be their best defensive player right now.
Statistically, he is, which is jarring, but he's hitting 8th today because he's on the season now hitting 170 with a 505 OPS.
Which is what he
Funny
did
enough,
last year around this
Funny
time
enough, he
too.
was actually worse last year. Last year through 12 games, he hit
Yes, I remember that.
151 with a 336 OPS. I mean, that's just extremely jarring. Um, and like, listen, hopefully he wakes up. I don't. He's not going to hit 180 all year. Like he's going to go through hot stretches. It's not going to look like what we want it to look like, obviously, but it's going to be like
But if he wants to,
passable.
if he wants to get a decent contract from the Phillies or somebody else, yes, it would greatly behoove him to
Yeah,
hit
yeah,
well, because no one's gonna, he could win the Gold Glove this year, but if he's has a sub 700 OPS, he's gonna
sure.
be.
Adolis, you look at his underlings, pretty nice looking savant page. I do think that he's been a little unlucky early in the season, and
Oh
now I
my
think he's
god!
kind of going through some
This is
sort of
like
slump.
this is kind of like Kepler all over again. It's like,
No, this is his page looks significantly better than Max Kepler's. I, it's not Max. I hope it's not Max Kepler, but I don't think it is. I do think he's having much better at bats, um, consistently good at bats. The last couple days have been kind of rough, but I do think he'll be fine. Um, the two hitters that look the most just dead in the water at the current juncture are Bohm and Stott. Um, Bryson, he made the big adjustment at the end of last year, and like he went through about a 2 month stretch of really, really good offensive baseball. And
Bryson has always been a second half player.
Yeah, yeah. Outside of what I'd say is 2023,
Uh,
where he started really hot. Remember, he started the year. What do you have? Like 18 straight hits to open up, like 18-game hitting streak to start the season or whatever. And it was like he should hit leadoff, and then he went in the gutter. Um, but yeah, you're right. He tends to kind of heat up as the season goes on. So hopefully that turns around because
Sorry,
him being bad
I
is
am right.
frustrating.
So right now, I am pulling up the baseball savant pages of Adolis Garcia and Max Kepler. Stand by.
Oh boy.
Well, Michael. Well, Michael. Oh, I was comparing Adolis Garcia's last year with Kepler last
Yes,
year,
yes,
and
yes. No.
it was like virtually, and actually Kepler was better. Um,
Dolis last year was atrocious. This year, it is definitely he's hitting the ball
yes,
hard
you
and
know,
he's hitting it hard often.
okay. Thank God, because I was going to be like, if
Yeah,
he's
no, it
worse
is
than
not. It
Kepler,
is not. It is not that
dude,
bad.
Dave FC is not looking good right now. I'll say
Yeah.
that, Dave, Dave FC.
Um. So yeah, we introduced this topic last week, and this week I actually had time to think about it and consider it as I was watching these games. Michael's 3 stars. Da, 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 how exciting! My 3 stars of the Phillies. I guess I'll go like hockey: third star, second star, first star.
Wait a
As
minute,
like
I thought this was just the Phillies.
no, no, no. I mean like the way that the way the NHL has three
Oh, oh,
stars.
oh,
Like the
oh.
third
Okay,
star is like
I
the
thought you were going to say
worst.
like the Phillies have been so bad this week. I have to go
No,
to other sports
no. I'm
to have
sure.
the
I'm
Phillies
sure
fill these
if
spots out.
I'm sure in like I don't know. I guess thankfully there's nothing else going on in the summer for that to
I'll have to
potentially take
cook
place.
up some kind of intro music for this.
Yeah, that would be yeah, that'll be something we this is a growing podcast, of course. So my third star of the week is none other than Jonathan Bolin of the bullpen. Now, he had an interesting spring, kind of not the best, and it was something that I was a little like somewhat concerned about. Obviously, Jonathan Bolin being the return from the Kansas City Royals trade with sending Matt Strom to the Royals. Since he had a pretty rough outing in the game against the Nationals that Taiwan started and they got blown out. He pitched on Wednesday against the Nationals, gave up a couple greasy hits and a run came across. He's had 3 straight scoreless outings. Monday against the Niners. Monday against the Giants, he had 1 inning of no-run ball. Wednesday against the Giants, 1 inning of no-run ball, and Friday against the Diamondbacks, an inning and a third of no-run ball. Now, it's nothing crazy, but the win they had against the Giants, it was a nice inning that he gave where the bullpen did a great job just keeping the lead at what it was. I know that Topper sometimes can just punt games away when they get down a few runs in the regular season, but Bolin seems like he might be the team's fireman, which has been a very important role to have out of the bullpen
He's in the Jeff Hoffman role.
since he's taken over. Yeah, like 2022, it was like Jose, and he was great at it in the playoffs for the most part. And 2023 and 24, it was Jeff Hoffman who was great at it. He really, really did a great job consistently. Last year in the regular season, it was like a mix of like Strom and Kerkering, and like that was obviously reared its ugly head at times in the playoffs and stuff. This year feels like it could be Bolin, and what is nice is he can get swing and miss stuff, he can get strikeouts, and he induces some good amount of soft contact, and I thought his last 3 outings have looked really,
Well,
really
when the Phillies
nasty.
defense right now is as pathetic as it's probably
Well,
ever
yes.
been,
Yeah, it's
yes,
not
you
great.
need guys that can get swings and misses consistently. Yes.
Yeah. So it's something that I think yesterday was a great example. He came in for Luzardo in the middle of his disaster inning and he got out of it. And then he went and had a clean 6th inning. And I think that's a guy that can go up and down, a guy that can come in with runners on base and get outs for you. Extremely valuable. Obviously, it's a guy that's got like 6 years of team control left, so he'll be in the mix of the bullpen for a while. But it's something I'm intrigued to keep watching as the season progresses, how he gets used, and I think he can be a real asset for this team. So shout out my third star of the week, Jonathan Bolin. My second star is Bryce Harper. Now, Bryce Harper had a very, very slow first two series of the year. He was not good against Texas, struggled through those first few games against Washington, hit a big home run in the final game against the Nationals, and since then has put together pretty much like a 1,500 OPS. And entering the road trip, he was hitting like 125 or hitting like 115 and or 120 with like a 4 410 OPS or something like that, like truly atrocious. And then he had the home run against Washington, and he had a really nice road trip. He hit well in Colorado, he hit well in San Francisco like he always does. Obviously, it didn't result in wins, but Bryce was personally having a really, really nice stretch there, and he continued it again last night with a couple of hits and some other good swings. He's just missing a couple flying out to the wall a couple times. Um, it does look like Bryce is pretty locked in at the plate. He's hitting the ball hard. He's driving it the other way, like every
Yeah, the
announcer
concern
says.
in the spring, especially, was the bat speed. His bat speed was definitely slower, and I think
It's like fine now. It's in a good spot. His bat speed is currently the 74th percentile at 73 and a half. And since they started tracking it um, back in when did they start tracking it? 2024, 2025 now, or 2023. Now, 2023, obviously, Bryce was 75.5 miles an hour on his bat speed, 89th percentile. Um, 2024, 75.5 dropped to 74, but he still had a really nice year. Now it's 74.2 last year, so it went up, and this year it's like it's dropped a little bit, but I don't think it's like I don't know. It's not like it's slow. It's not like it's bad. It's still right there. And obviously it's
yeah,
early, it's cold, like it's not fully heated up yet.
yeah,
So
I would have to agree. I would agree with that.
he's gonna be fine.
I
Everyone
feel like
was
we've had a very negative show. Before you do your first star of the week, can I
yeah.
just interject with some breaking news?
Oh boy. Please.
The New York Mets have called up Craig Kimbrell.
Oh man. That's some funny breaking
I
news.
guess
They
you're going to the
lost
game
last
today,
night.
Michael. You need to you're going to make sure to check socials because if he's being called up tonight, Michael, that means he will be pitching at some point.
Yeah. Mets lost last night, so that was pretty cool. My God, that's funny. My first star of the week, it's a guy that is much maligned by this fan base.
There's a lot of guys that fall into that
There
parameter.
are there are a lot of guys, but this guy really seems to never get credit, not even from like the boomer fans that maybe give guys like Alec Bohm credit. But it's a guy that's really had a nice hot start to the season. And he's had a nice week. He's just hitting the ball hard, and he continues to hit really well against right-handed pitching. That is none other than Brandon Marsh, hitting a three-run home run last night, which felt like would have been a nice turnaround for him. But he's he's hit well all season so far. His OPS is at 775, and that's nothing amazing, but he's had a nice week, and it's someone that is just going to be a key cog in that lineup where if he can continue to hit really well against right-handed pitching, can provide some nice general protection for the top of the order. He's hitting cleanup again today. Hopefully he has a couple other nice swings. The other thing about him that's just really nice to have is his left field defense. It's super steady out there. We've seen that Otto Kemp adventures in left field have not been very enjoyable and have, again, ultimately cost you runs in some spots. So when he's out there, it's very nice to have a steady glove, and watching him out there is very
Yeah, I
nice.
have a
So
feeling the Phillies will, as the season progresses, they will be acquiring another outfielder and making Otto Kemp full time infielder.
maybe we'll see. They still got some guys in AAA that they could call up potentially, like Brian De La Cruz. Felix Reyes, another guy that's been hitting the ball pretty well down there.
I did see Felix Reyes highlights.
So
Yes.
so we'll see. We will see what they do about Otto Kemp. If he continues to, if he can like start hitting well, it makes this issue a lot less detrimental. But currently, he's also not hitting well, so it makes it very, very frustrating. But Brandon Marsh, my first star, someone that definitely goes underappreciated despite being pretty good bat the last handful of years against righties, and that's important. So those are my 3 stars of the week. That'll finish up our Phillies roundup, and that'll finish up our show today, ladies and gentlemen. So I appreciate everyone for tuning in. We both appreciate it very much. We have winter sports playoffs on the cusp. We'll see if both teams could make it. That would be great, despite the fact of potential impending doom awaiting them on the other side. But getting in would be cool for one team. For the other team, it is what it is. It's just the situation of the matter. We'll be talking NFL draft soon, and yeah, enjoy what's going to be a very sunny weekend, and hopefully a couple of Phillies wins and also some Flyers and Sixers wins. So yeah, that'll do it.
All right. Take care. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, everybody.
We are part of the Fired Up Sports Network of shows. Please check out other Fired Up Sports Network podcasts like the P-LotPod, Water Cooler Talk, Bell Smashers, Philly Sports Love and Pain, Drunk on Broad, Beer Battered Sports, and the Fired Up Sports Show, which are available on all major podcasting hosting sites and social media. Also, check out Mark Ramos' Roundup on firedupsports.com, which breaks down the happenings going on with all your favorite local teams.